Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining me. I'm Troy Hudkins, and this is Lessons for Life podcast with my guest today, Phyllis McDonald-Mattie. Good morning, Phyllis. How you doing?
Good morning, Troy. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me here. I love what you do. It's wonderful. Thanks.
Awesome. It's great to have you on. I like to look for people I know for guests, just regular people that have an exceptional story to tell, and I think you're one of them. So,
Uh, okay.
anyways, let's get started. So, my first question: who is Phyllis McDonald-Mattie?
That's a really good question to ask. Um, 10 years ago, I think I would have answered it very differently. I'm 56 right now. First and foremost, I'm Phil, the woman. Before, I think I would have said I'm the mother, the sister, the daughter, but I've learned to embrace who I am. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that we're that person, that human being first. And, to acknowledge who we are as that person without all these other titles. And so it doesn't mean that I forget about those, because those are still so very important to me. But being embracing my womanhood, the human being that I am, and nurturing myself has become a very big priority in my life. Um,
Nice.
Second, I'm a mother of five. We have a blended family, so three I gave birth to. Two are my husband's children. It's my second marriage, and we're just so proud and blessed to have those children. Well, they're all grown now. The youngest is 20. They range from 23 to 39.
Nice.
So yeah. Secondly, I'm a wife. My husband and I are best friends. We have a lot in common, but we also have very many differences, which I think makes for a lot of interesting, conversations, interesting things that come up. And but we have the same goal in mind, which is really, we have good same morals and things like that. So we have a really great relationship. I'm a daughter. My mom passed at 62, so she's been gone from us for 22 years now. My dad is still alive. He's 85. He lives in Newfoundland, which is really far away from me. It really feels further just because he's there and I'm here in Alberta. And with COVID now, I really, really miss him. But we get to FaceTime with him now, so which is really good.
Nice.
I'm a sister. I have one brother and one sister, David and Lois. One is older, one is younger. So I'm the middle child. I'm a nurse. I'm a knowledge nut or enthusiast, whichever you want to call it. I love to learn. I've been like that all my life. I love to share what I learn. Gary, my husband, will always say, Phil, why don't you just read something, just something silly. And I'm always learning something that's kind of factual or something that can improve my life or improve someone else's life. That's just who I am. That's just what fills me up. And I like to share what I've learned, what I've experienced. I've had some really amazing blessings in my life. I've also had some really dark times, and the combination of those things, if I can help somebody else with an experience that I've had, that I've been there, and help someone else get through it a little easier, then I'm all in. So
Awesome.
so I wear a few hats, and I kind of like them all.
That's awesome. That's very awesome. Yeah, I interviewed a guy the other day, and he said one of the biggest things in life is to keep learning,
Absolutely. I think it's,
continue learning.
yeah, keep learning. We like to be in our comfort zone, where everything is just, we anticipate everything that's going to happen, and we have that routine. But I think the times we grow are the times when we're most uncomfortable,
Oh, for sure.
because then,
For
and that's
sure.
the universe just saying, okay, I'm pushing you somewhere else. I'm pushing you in a different direction.
Right.
And it may be uncomfortable, but change is, I think, is inevitable. And I think after a while we have to learn to embrace it. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and change as well as failure, like
absolutely,
when you try something maybe once, maybe multiple times, if you fail, you learn from that and you grow, right?
absolutely, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's awesome.
Failure is a big part of success.
Yeah, I read something one day. It said um, the the people that succeed have failed more times than most people have tried.
Absolutely, yeah. I've heard that too.
Something like that.
Yeah, our youngest boy was into basketball, and for all of high school, and he did very well. And I always remember Michael Jordan had talked about, he was such a success in basketball, and he said, if only people knew how many times, the thousands and thousands of times that I missed the hoop.
Right, right.
Right?
Yeah,
Thousands.
yeah,
So everybody who starts out, no one's a master immediately, but I mean, you have to start somewhere, and starting and keep going, and you're going to fail, but then, it's either going to motivate you to move forward and do better, or it's going to motivate some people just give up. But those are people who do just keep going and saying, okay, I'm going to do it this way, or I'm going to try a different angle or whatever.
right,
Then
right.
that's, yeah. So success, failure is a big part of success. Fail your way to the top.
Yeah, and I think your mindset has a lot to do with it too. Like I had read once, Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right,
That's one of my favorite sayings.
right? Like if you think you can do it and you put your mind to it, you will do it. You will
You will.
accomplish what you set out to.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think that's awesome. Yeah,
yeah. I don't think there are any limits in life except the ones we put on ourselves.
exactly. Right,
And sometimes there are limits that are imposed by other people. Other
yep,
people in our past that have kind of like, oh, well, you can't do this, or you can't. I know a lot of people that are very successful now that were told in school is such a big, uh, creates such an impact on people's lives. Oh, you're not the straight A student, or you're not smart, or you're not good at math, or you're not good at uh, writing, or whatever. They've gone on to become the most brilliant people in the world, and it's
right.
the fact that someone said that you can't do this that just lit that fire in their belly.
Motivates them. Yeah,
Yeah, it lit that fire in their belly that, you know what, I'm going to prove you wrong. I can do that.
as simple as that. Yeah, I'm gonna
Absolutely.
prove you wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's cool. And I was chatting with somebody the other day about my grandkids because we have one that lives fairly close and we watch her all the time. And she has such an amazing imagination. And like just all the things she does, she takes a box or a pole or a rope or whatever, a scarf, and it's something. It's
Wow.
there's lava on the floor, so you got to bounce from pillow to pillow to pillow to stay off the lava, kind of thing. Like just her amazing um, imagination. My wife and I talk about it all the time about not squashing that so that it grows, you know,
Absolutely.
because
Yeah.
when we start saying, no, you can't do that, or no, don't do that, or stop being like that, that's when people, they become cocooned in a simple mindset.
Yeah. It's like we weren't given a manual on how to parent or to,
Correct.
right? We were never given it. Our parents, taught us the way that they were taught, right?
Yeah.
And our imagination is one of the most underutilized resources we have,
Yeah.
because it's where all the creativity comes. It's where the impossible comes from. It's like, so even as adults, if we could go back to that mindset of your little granddaughter,
Yeah.
and just have that fun imaginative mind that she can create anything in the world, then it's limitless.
Yeah.
what this child will do as she
Yeah.
grows. So I would
Exactly.
feed it.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's what we do. Like we we constantly, she likes dress up, so we purchase little and not expensive, like cheap dollar store stuff, but
Yeah.
things that she can use to dress up and imagine and create with,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
And I hope all my grandkids do that,
Yeah.
they learn and grow like that.
Yeah. And
So
I
you
think we
mentioned
should all do that as we get older. Like I have a dress up
exactly.
box.
Yeah.
I have a you
We
put on a
won't go
fun
there.
but I have a funny dress up box, and it's
Right.
I pull it out when it's necessary, if
Right.
someone's having a bad day, a funny wig and weird pair of glasses or yeah.
Make people laugh and brighten
Yeah,
their day. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, like I used to broadcast hockey in the States, and on Halloween I would always dress up in a weird outfit, and it's fun and creative,
Absolutely.
and it
Yeah,
brightens people's days.
yeah. And you can't feel down or negative about the world if you're wearing something silly and crazy. And there's
Or if
always
you're
still
laughing your head off.
absolutely, yeah. And there's that little kid inside all of us, right? And we just
Yeah,
don't, allow that little kid to come out enough. Like,
yeah,
we grow up and we get serious for some reason. And I think this day and age, with all the shifts that are happening in the world, I think this is the time when we may feel heavy hearted more than ever, but this is the time when we really I need to bring that lightness in and that laughter and that love and just spread it around even more now.
right, right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I like those times. We went out to my daughter's for New Year's Eve, and we got laughing so hard the one night we were in tears. And I love those times because
Yeah.
you're just so carefree and just relaxed, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's the best medicine, laughter.
Oh yeah,
It just fills your body with those feel good chemicals, and yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it's so good for you. That's so wonderful, Troy.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, you had mentioned education. You mentioned, kids in school and stuff. So, how important, or let me rephrase that, education is important. We need to learn. What do you think carries more importance? Do you think classroom or life lessons?
I think I came from a very academic background. Um, um, I grew up in a small fishing village in Newfoundland. When I grew up, there was about 1,000 people that lived there. Um, so my and we only went to grade 11. But my father had gone on to university. When he was 15, he left home. I think he did grade 9 from he did grade 9 in September, went on grade 10 in October. He read every
Nice.
book. He was so we grew up with like parents who were always reading. Um, Encyclopedias were always out. He was always looking something up. Just totally, and I guess that's where our because we're all like it. Our just drive to learn and knowledge came from, really, is National Geographic books, were always there, just learning about all different parts of the world. There's even now today, there's barely a thing you can bring up with him that he can't talk about,
Right.
a topic.
He knows something.
um, but that being said, I really believe that school, uh, you know academia is not individualized. And I think life experiences and, you know, being driven, learning what your passion is in life, um, traveling, exploring, experiencing different cultures, all those things I think are just as important. I think it's important to be a well-rounded individual in this world. You know, you can
Yes.
have all the diplomas on your wall from all the degrees that you get, but if you don't have social skills or compassion or um, knowing what it's like to live with diversity or in a multicultural setting, then I think it handicaps you in a way,
Right.
you know. So I think if you can embrace, you know, school, you know, regulated school, and also embrace the other side of life, which is living, nurturing that part of you, that you incorporate all these other people and cultures, and just embrace something new all the time. You know, I think that's really important. Being a
Right.
well-rounded individual, being a good person, human being in this world is very important. There's no book in this world that can do that.
Right.
You know, it's
Exactly.
just experience, I think, that can bring those things on. And sometimes it doesn't have to be good experiences. Bad experiences can make you decide, well, hey, you know what, that's not the route I want to take in my life.
Right.
So I think no matter what experience we've had in our past or whatever, it depends on which direction we choose to go with it.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I grew up with the belief that the janitor in school was just as important as the teacher. And
Right.
when I was a nurse, you know, our housekeeping staff or our security guards or our ambulance drivers or whatever, they were just as important as the surgeon or the chief of
Right.
staff, or because without them, the chief of staff can't do his job.
Right.
You know,
Right.
we all had to become a community. You
Right.
know, not everybody had that uh, you know, perspective on life or work or whatever it was, or you know, and but that was about them. That was something that they were dealing with. If they would look down on someone who would say, oh, they're just a janitor or whatever. Well,
Right.
I have lots of friends that, you know, I have lots of friends home in Englee, where I grew up, who have never really left Englee, and they're still just as precious to me, you
Right.
know, as anyone else. Like, you know, I have so much respect for them. I grew up with them. You know, we came from the same place, and I think when if we sit back and judge people, we really need to take a big hard look at ourselves.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah,
I worked with a gentleman for a while. He was a Newfoundlander, and
good man.
yeah, he
Mm.
he um he was a carpenter, and of course the guys I worked with were all trades. There was myself, the plumber. I had an electrician that we worked with, and a painter, and a HVAC guy. And of course, all the trades, you give each other a bit of a hard time, right? But this guy would always say to us, you know, I might just be a carpenter and maybe I don't make as much as you guys do. But if I didn't build it, you'd have nowhere to run your pipes or nowhere to mount your fixtures for your electrical or anything, right?
Yeah,
And then of course the guys would all sit back and go, yeah, yeah, you're right. You know, because we, like you said about the hospital, we're all part of a group that needs to work together to make things work or
yeah,
complete things, right?
absolutely. Like, you know, the foundation of anything doesn't. Um, we might think that it's the foundation really is based on community. I think anything has to be based on a
Right.
team approach, or that's what I've found over the years. I worked as a nurse for 26 plus years, and you know, worked in many different areas and all across Canada. And I think that that approach is what works. If you have someone who comes in, I've worked under lots of supervisors and whatever, and the supervisors that really listen and hear you are the ones that tend to get more done. And if you are heard too, uh, you tend to give more,
Right. Right.
you know. So it's yeah, if you can't have a team if there's separation.
Yeah.
You just can't, like, I worked in the OR for many years as a nurse, and it's probably one of the most difficult areas to work in because you're in this confined space the entire time you're working, right? It's
Yeah.
not like you can just run off down the hall and get away from somebody or whatever. So
Right.
you're there with everybody. It's tight quarters.
And
So
sometimes
uh,
it's many hours.
yes, and excuse me, you really get to know who people are, and you really get to know who you are, because you have to accommodate and adjust, because the patient on the table is still the priority,
Right.
regardless of how the surgeon behaves or the nurses behave or the cleaning staff behave or whatever. The priority is that patient.
Right.
It may have been our fifth procedure of the same thing that day, but we need to go into it with the mindset that this is this person's first time experiencing this, and we have to treat them justly,
Right.
with the
Yeah.
same. So working in the OR really made me really open my eyes to how you do have to accommodate in life for others that are vulnerable at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
What what motivated you or gave you the idea to choose that career?
Nursing.
Yes.
When I grew up in Newfoundland, we would have education week. Did you ever have those education
We
week in
did.
school?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did.
And I don't know what they call them now. I think it's a different name. They've rephrased everything. But so at that time, we were a very remote community. Once you entered Angley, there was no other road to go anywhere. You had to take a boat. Um, and
Kind of like
so,
Fort McMurray when I first moved there. It was the end of the road.
yes, it is the end of the road. What am I saying, right? I'm
Right.
back in the same place.
There.
But so we would have education week, and I guess when I look back, there's so many different things now, but back then, in the late 70s, early 80s, it was usually like, armed forces that came to talk to us, police officers, nurses, or teachers
Right.
that came. And so we got that exposure. We never got really exposure to much of anything else. I think computer science was starting to slowly creep in. But I remember when I was 13, 14, 15, my grandfather got very sick, and we moved into his house with him as a family. And my parents hired a caretaker to come help him. And that really put me on that road to wanting to care and help for people who were vulnerable,
Nice.
who were sick, so I remember when I wrote you had to write an essay at that time for entrance, and I didn't have the chemistry, physics, biology courses. We did grade 11, so we did earth science,
Okay.
geography, or whatever, but we had to write an essay, an entrance essay, and it was a lot about my grandfather, my father's
Nice.
father, and how he became ill and how we nursed him and helped, we all kind of came together as a family to help him and do what he needed to get him well again. And
Nice.
that's what really inspired me to become a nurse.
So for you, this was a very personal decision.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Nice. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
And it
Um,
was a great career, like very challenging career. Takes a lot out of you physically and emotionally.
right.
Um, but there were days that I would be so happy about a case that I had or whatever, you'd have to scrape me off the ceiling. Like, it was a high that was such a natural occurrence. Like, it was just like, wow, we were really able to help, because a lot of times it's life and death. You go in and you're not sure what the outcome's going to be.
Right.
And I love that. I'm a Gemini. I get bored really easy. I've learned that about myself. I get bored. I love variety. So I worked in acute areas, ICU. I worked obstetrics, labor and delivery, premature babies. I worked with in the OR. I don't know if I said emergency. So I've worked in areas where you just never know what's coming through the door, and every case is
Right.
different. And that is what used to like just fire me up, because it made me use my resources.
Right.
And even though you think, oh, well, I practiced that. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that was that in paragraph 5 on page 10 of my notes. But it's amazing how it's in there. It's
Right.
recorded in your subconscious. And when you need it, it comes out, and you
Right.
use it, you know. So I love that about nursing.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
my aunt was an emergency room nurse for, I don't know, 40 some years in Pincher Creek, Alberta, and
Okay.
she worked nights pretty much her whole career because she liked the amount of action that went on at night.
Yeah. Especially on a full
So
moon.
yeah, yeah, full moons were the craziest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you, when you were growing up, your parents, your siblings, who or who do you think had the biggest impact on who you've become?
Oh, I think both my parents did in very different ways. Um, my mother, like I said, she's been gone. She died way too young at 62, breast cancer. Um, she she was our glue. She held us together. My father worked a lot outside the home. My mother did too. We had a family business. My father was also the fish merchant for the town. He was manager of the Salt Fish Corporation. And so we had businesses. We had a store in Englee that sold everything right from groceries down to coffins, you know, like had a bit of everything. And he worked on the barter system. So for years, he at the beginning of the fishing season, he would give the men the supplies that they would need to start their fishing, and then they would pay him back as they got their quotas and their fish and whatever. And so he worked outside the home a lot. He was always busy, always had a pen and paper in his pocket, writing notes of things he had to do and stuff like that. So mom was very loving, huggy, touchy, loved to laugh. She loved to laugh. She was an incredible singer. I don't sing. I can whistle a little bit. My brother sings really well. She loved to sing. She loved to have fun. And so she taught me that piece. And later on in life, when she got sick, um, you know, you see I saw a different side of her. And the more I get to her age, the more I can identify with her and realize exactly what she was going through. You
Right.
know, when I was younger, I don't know that I truly realized what she was going through, but she's taught me, you know, so many blessings. And she would, Christmas, especially in Newfoundland, I still see this picture of her. We'd all be down, you know, dressed normally kind of thing, and people would be over, and we'd be socializing and having fun. She'd go upstairs and she'd get dressed up like a man, come down with the mustache painted on, and the, you know, and just be silly. It was kind of spontaneous, right? um, so she gave me so many gifts, and she was also so involved in the community. She had started up Tops, which was a weight loss group. You know, she was involved in Girl Guides and Pathfinders. She was involved in World Peace Day with the church. She was always involved in other things outside the home like that. So that was, you know, always showing me that, you know, it's good to give back to people. My father, he, like I say, he's 85. He just went into a seniors home in it was a year in November back in Newfoundland, and he's waiting on a hip replacement right now. Mentally, he's pretty sharp still, and he's actually what's gotten him through the first year of being in a senior's home. He went in basically because he needs the hip replacement. He just couldn't live on his own anymore. Um, is my cousin in Ontario is writing a book about growing up in Angli, in
Nice.
where her parents grew up. And so she asked my father if he would help her write things, things that he remembered. So he's been just writing constant about things that he remembered he did as a kid, and he'll call all of us up, and he'll say, I just remembered what I did, like the time I rode my bike in the middle of winter on the ice from Englee to Bidarm, and there was an open bay, and he said all I had with me was a hammer. I'd ride so far on the bike, and then I'd get out with the hammer and I'd check the thickness of the ice in front of me. And so many stories he's telling us now about is childhood, and it's a blessing for us to be able to listen to all this, because there are things we never heard of before. So
Right.
it's amazing how things come around, and this writing these things to help her with her book has been a lifesaver for him, because he loves to
Sparked his memory.
share. And yeah, and yeah, he'll just call me up out of the blue. You never guess what I remembered today, so it's triggering all these things he had forgotten, right? So
That's
he's
amazing.
given me my thirst for knowledge, academic knowledge, and very quiet man, very reserved. He wasn't the type of father that you could just go jump in his arms and cuddle him, and he's very reserved, very quiet. But when I would go home as an adult, or when I was in nursing school, when I would go back home for a visit, he'd be the first one at the door. He'd hug me and tell me he loved me, and he'd take my bags in the house. But he didn't hug me or tell me he loved me anymore until I left. But I always knew
Right.
he did.
Yeah.
Whereas
That's awesome.
my mother was every day. So they were very different, but they gave me very different things. So I think both of them are equally important,
Nice.
and yeah, so.
Do you think your siblings had, I know growing up in a family, you have your sibling rivalries or your arguments and things, but do you think there's anything that they've given you that's taught you any lessons or that you've gained from them?
Oh, I think so. My brother David is just 11 months older than me. He was, when we were little, he was wow, this is really a walk down memory lane, isn't it? When we were little, he was the first boy, and my parents lived with my grandparents, my father's parents. So he was the boy, and they had a lady that lived with them, Nora, and she was kind of like a housekeeper, nanny sort of, and she took such a liking to David. She loved him dearly. So when I came along, I was kind of like, you know,
Yeah.
uh, David was always the one she loved the most, and she didn't deny it. She was, it was very visible. My mother even would comment on it when I was old enough to realize what she was saying, that I wish Nora would just pay as much attention to you as she does to David. So I think it made me learn to be, and this wasn't David's fault, he was just a baby, but it made me learn to be more independent,
Okay.
more in tune with who I was, and yeah, it used to tick me off sometimes, I have to say, because that went on even up into our teen years. It went on
Well,
a
well,
long
we
time.
all we all want recognition or um, that type of attention, I guess.
Yes.
We all want it. right?
yeah,
Like you don't go anywhere and hope that everybody pays attention to everyone else, but not you,
yeah,
right? We
yeah,
all want the attention. So
yeah. Yeah. So I think I learned that from him. And now, like, he lived here in Fort Mac. He just bought a place in Lac-La Biche. He was retired from the Army of 30 years. He was in the Air Force. He went through a lot of things. Back in 92, his chopper ditched in the Gulf of Mexico with an electrical failure. They all survived. They all got out. You know, it
nice.
flipped over, went down, and they all got out. And he also was with Swiss Air when they did the cleanup and things like that. So he's been through quite a bit of stuff. He's an incredible writer. He's, yeah. So yeah, I've learned to be very independent, and I think lot has to do with him. And we have, it's funny how you have different relationships with your siblings. Some siblings you spend more time with, and some you spend less time with. And David
Right.
and I don't see each other a lot, but I know he loves me. I love him, and he's working. He does a safety. He has a safety company now for construction here in
Nice.
Fort Mac. So he's quite busy with that. And I know that when he's off work, he needs to just totally decompress and recharge. So I
Yeah.
respect that.
Some alone
My
time.
Yeah, my sister Lois is she's 8 years younger than me. She was a surprise, and but a lovely surprise. She's such a unique individual. Uh, she beats her own drum, always has. Um, uh, she's just a free spirit, and we're fairly close. And even though there's the age difference, I really didn't get to know her actually until she went off to university. So I was 8 when she was born, and when she was 8, I left for nursing school, basically. So, um, so I really didn't get to really know her a lot because as an 8-year-old and then a teenager, who wants to really play with their little
Right.
sister?
Right.
So I ended up a lot of times, I was her babysat a lot and stuff like that. But she's a very unique individual. She does crafting, felting of different birds and whales, and she sells her projects all over the world. She does
Nice.
incredible work. And yeah, so she's taught me to be a little more free, a
Nice.
little more relaxed, a little more me, because I think I don't think I know I was kind of the people pleaser, please mom and dad and pleased everybody. And I think it's good to help people, but not sacrificing who you are.
Right.
And I was guilty of doing that for a number of years. And a lot of us do that. And but acknowledging it and realizing that you are a people pleaser is the only way that you can change it.
Right.
And uh, not being a people pleaser now in life doesn't mean that I don't care about people or I'm selfish or whatever, but it just means that I know what I need in my life. I know what I don't need. And there's a big difference. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you need to know when to take your time.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
like you said, your brother has to recharge. You need to know when you need to recharge.
Absolutely. And I've learned that. I came from a family of very, very hard workers. And it was almost the theme of what you accomplish, your value is determined by what you accomplish in the run of a day. I'm sure
Right.
a lot of people can relate to that,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
You, um, so I've really learned to kind of let that go a lot. And but it took me a long time because it's ingrained in you.
Yep.
um, I know that some days at work I could accomplish more in an hour than some people would accomplish all day.
Right.
And that's just
exactly.
the way I was,
Yeah,
just, yeah, driven. And
yeah,
so there's got to be a balance in life. Yeah.
yeah.
So
So
I'm really proud of 56.
there you
Some
go.
people don't want to get older, but I'm just really proud of 56 and getting older. I'm not afraid of it. Some people don't like it at all, but I find that I'm becoming more me the older I get.
Nice.
And also, I met so many people who never made it to 20 or 30 or 40. And
Yeah.
so it's a blessing to be able to say that I'm 56.
I look at it as growing wiser and gaining more experiences.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah,
Like
I
there's
agree.
lots of stuff out there you haven't experienced yet,
Yeah. Yeah,
and
it's true.
now's your time, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
that's how I look at
I
it as
think that's
well.
a big thing.
Yeah.
What do you do to unwind in your own time? What do you do for you?
Me, um, read. I love to dance. I love music. I'm the type that, my husband will get in the car and it's like, okay, yeah. He'll turn on the radio and it's blasting because I just love
I
music. I love all kinds of music.
That's what
I
I
love
do.
Yeah, I do. I don't like straining to hear the words. I need to hear
Yeah.
them, right? And when I'm driving, the better the music is, the faster I drive. So I use cruise control a lot. But I love music. I love interacting with people, and I know mostly we now do it online. I really miss hugging people. I'm a huggy touchy type person. I really miss that physical hug. Um, what else do I do? I meditate. Um, I take time now just to relax and do nothing sometimes. Never did
Nice.
that before in my life, Troy. I will
Nice.
just make myself a cup of tea, put my feet up, and just sit there in the silence. And I'm
That's
okay with
awesome.
that. Before I would be, oh my goodness, what should I be doing or what can I. And but I am able now to take that time to just be, and I'm okay. Yeah, I
Nice.
don't have to. I don't have to talk to someone. I don't have to be on my phone. I don't, we just got two new little puppies New Year's Eve, so I don't have much downtime, but I'm getting so much love from them that it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
It's exciting.
yeah.
Um, who do you think in your life, so outside of your family, maybe a teacher or a coworker or something, who do you think had the biggest impact on you?
Ah, oh, I think there's a lot of people who had big impacts on me. In my community, looking back, I became pregnant at um, 16, and I was in grade 11, and I ended up having to stay home from February on. My blood was low, and anyway, so all the teachers, bless their hearts, and my classmates every day would bring home my homework for the day.
Nice.
They would all take turns doing it, and I would go to school and I write my exams. Um, and my mother, I know when I took my final exams, my mother could have gone in and written them. She studied with me,
Yeah.
day and night, and I passed with honors. Like
Nice.
she really helped me. So all of them inspired me. And I remember my graduation, I was quite big and pregnant at that point because I'm not very tall, so I was, very big. And my daughter Vicky was born in August. So at the end of June, I was quite big. So my classmates, and I've thanked them since, I thank them all individually. Um, they wore over their beautiful dresses and suits, they wore the gowns from the church choir,
Nice.
the United Church Choir. so that it would camouflage me and I wouldn't stick out like a sore thumb
So
in
you
the
all look
picture.
the same.
We all looked the same.
Nice.
And at the time, I don't know if being 16 and pregnant, it was emotionally a very rough time for me. Um, you know, mainly it was like, oh my God, like, you know, how did I mess up? How did this happen? Well, I know how it happened, but you know, right? We all know how it happened. But you know, it was like it wasn't supposed to have been on my agenda. But I at the time, I don't think I realized how big that gesture was that they wore those gowns for me that day
Right.
and made me feel part of them even more,
Right.
even if it was in a visual sense, because I was so into the fact that, oh my God, here I am pregnant, grade 11, small town, everybody's talking, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
But as years went on, and the more I would look at those pictures and I'd remember those times, and I've gone back and done a lot of work on things that happened to me in my past, you know, with um, certain tools that I've learned over the years, and it was really important for me to thank them for what they did, and my teachers as well, you know, sending that work home to me, because it's gotten me to where I am today, you
Right.
know.
Right.
And my daughter Vicky, she'll be 40 this year. Yes, Vicky, I know you don't want me to say it, but you're going to be 40 this year. uh, I just love her to death. Like, you know, my parents raised her. I went off to university, to nursing school. And at the time, I didn't fully understand. I was 17 years old, had this beautiful little baby. I just wanted to be a mom. And, but they sacrificed for me. And I have to thank them for what they did. And in the beginning, I used to think, you know, I just missed this baby so much. She grew inside me. She was a part of me, you know, and but I couldn't at that point. I was so young and I couldn't look at the entire picture.
Right. Right.
So, you know, we have a great relationship. She lives here in Fort McMurray now with, we have two grandchildren, Jacob and Clara. They're
Nice.
18 and 13. Like, they're big, they could carry me around,
Yeah.
you know, and we don't get to see them as much now because of COVID. And, you know, we could go to Walmart and see each other more, but so it's all come full circle. Like, we have such a great mother-daughter relationship, you
That's
know,
awesome.
and so I forgave myself finally for all that. And I think anyone who goes through that, they do, because in the end, you just have this beautiful baby that you're going to love.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
That's
know.
awesome.
Yeah.
Um, growing up, did you play sports and stuff? Were you involved in like school activities and things?
I was on every team there was.
Nice.
I was.
Awesome.
I played softball, broomball. Have you ever heard of
I
broomball?
I played broomball. Yep.
Did you?
Years
Wasn't
and years
that
ago.
fun?
That was
I don't know
awesome.
why doesn't anyone play broomball now?
Yeah, I don't know. It's not a big thing. I
It
played
was so
I
much
played
fun.
I played lacrosse too, which is I think is an amazing game.
I've never played it, but I've watched it. Yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds like fun. But we played broomball, you know, those orange spongy bottom shoe boots you
Yeah.
wore, and the
Yeah.
yeah. I play. Did skate. We skated all the time. Cross country skiing. I was table tennis, badminton, volleyball, basketball. I was on all the teams. Even now, I'll play. My husband and I play badminton, and I'm still pretty tough. I'll nosedive for a birdie. I will. He said, Phil. He said, you really don't care if you lose your two front teeth, do you? I said, nope. I said, it's a matter of getting that birdie back over there and you can't get it.
Yeah.
So I
That's
definitely do
awesome.
have a very competitive side. But
Nice.
no, we were involved in all the sports. We were involved in drama club. I think for a small community, it was really important to be involved in those things.
Nice.
You know,
Nice.
yeah, and because we were a small community, like I graduated my class grade 12, grade 11 was, there was 12 to 16 of us. I can't remember exactly the number. So it was small. It was a small school. Because I remember my husband saying, we go to the gym a lot and stuff. And when we first met and got together, he said, well, I'll get you a combination lock for the gym. I said, why would you get me a combination lock? Just get me a lock with a key. Well, Phil, everybody knows how to use a combination lock. And I said, well, I've never used one. What do you mean you've never used it? So he grew up in a school of 300, high school,
Yeah.
where they had to use combination locks, right?
Yeah.
I had a cubby in my school, right? Just a,
Yeah.
a hole in the wall, it
Yeah.
wasn't a locker. So he was shocked that I'd never used a combination lock. And I said, well, it's because I didn't have to. We trusted everybody and we just put our books and our boots and our coats in, right?
Yeah.
So,
That's awesome.
so I think that was an advantage of growing up in a small community, was that you got to be on all those teams. We traveled a lot with sports. We would get billeted out. We would meet all kinds of people and end up being pen pals with them all back then, because you had to write letters back then.
Right.
You couldn't
Right.
just send them a message. You could call them, but it was probably long distance back then, and your parents probably wouldn't want that too much. But
Only talk for a minute.
yeah, so we wrote, we wrote letters.
Yeah.
And so we met people all over Newfoundland, and then people would come to Englee and we'd have tournaments there and they would get billeted out in our places. And of course now billeting is, people just don't do that
Few
anymore.
and far between.
Absolutely. And those were really big, like you talk about the academic part and the experience part, those were like experiences.
Yeah.
Right? The
Yeah.
experience part of it. And it was good.
What do you think is one lesson that you've learned from being part of a team or in a team environment with other players or coaches? What is something you would pull from that?
Well, being on a team, and I've been on many. Even as a nurse, I was on a lot of different teams of like developing new pamphlets or new booklets or new teaching tools. Or I think it's important to listen. I also think it's important to um, um, be interactive. You need to listen, but you need to be interactive, because the more you're interactive, the more I think you learn.
Okay.
The more you ask questions and the more, and being a team player is, I think, lifting someone else up when you recognize that they're not probably having the greatest day, or maybe taking on something a little extra if you know that someone else is struggling personally or something like that. I think it's when you become part of a team and you actually learn to rely on one another, and so it's important to get to know people personally, and
Nice.
realize where their struggles come from. And so, because we all have them at different times in our life, we never know when they're going to show up.
For sure. Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
So being a team player is very important, and it doesn't mean that you get to have the stage all the time. It means that you sit back and listen, but when you have something important to say, even if you think, well, maybe that's a silly question, or maybe it's a silly thing to feel that needs to be included, or maybe probably wouldn't be the best technique to do right now. Sometimes it's just worth saying it and doing it, and
Yeah.
not being afraid. But that comes with, again, maturity, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
What do you think is the best piece of advice someone has ever given you?
You do you.
Awesome.
You do you. I think, and it took me a long time to realize that it was okay to just be me. I'm a little twisted. I don't beat to everybody's drum. I will never beat to everybody's drum, and that's okay. A lot of people don't. I've been in, conventional medicine as a nurse for 26, like I said, plus years. I left because I became sick. I recovered, thankfully, but I was persistent, and I sought out alternative measures. Conventional medicine wasn't able to help me. Um, so I had to go with what uh, resonated with me. And it's not everyone's cup of tea. Some people still probably think it's a bit outlandish, being able to change memories. And it's definitely not the way that I was raised in rural Newfoundland,
Right.
But I think as we grow in life, I think we have to evolve, you know. And learning new things. And I've learned a lot of coping skills because I was a sick person, because I was in a dark place at times in my life. And I'm thankful for those dark places because of that, because it's taught me tools. I have a toolbox of so many different things that I can use to help myself, help my family, help other people that, I've been in a waiting room at a garage waiting to get my oil changed, and I can see a woman or a man falling apart next to me and just strike up a conversation, and within a few minutes I can help them feel better.
Nice.
Or get a grasp on things. And so I think it's important to find out what rocks your boat, what makes you tick, and you just be you, because everybody else is out there doing their own thing.
Right.
And no matter what, everybody, we're all on social media now. We're all connecting this way, right? And thank God we have this, because we can still get our messages out to the world and things. But I really think that everybody has their own gift. They're brought into this world with their own gift to bring to the world. And if we can be open-minded enough and say, okay, yeah, I'll listen to that, or I'll try that, then fine. But some people are never like that, or, and that's fine if it, whatever works for them. But one big thing I've learned is that it was important for me to learn to be my authentic self, not to hide anymore, not to be, I used to always say Jim McDonald's good little girl, you know what I mean? Like, I'm still his little girl. I'll always be his little girl, and I love him to death. But, I'm more outspoken than I've ever been. And I also love helping people. I think that is my thing in life, is that I have such a desire inside me. Being a nurse, I was a nurse at 20 years old. I've been a healer all my life, conventional medicine. I've been a patient on the other side of things. So I've seen both sides of what it's like to be the nurse and the patient. And I've dabbled in alternative medicine for over 20 years. So I have a good broad, toolbox of ways to cope. And it doesn't mean I don't have bad days or anything like that, but I do have ways of making it, a little better.
Right.
And I like to share those.
Awesome. Yeah, you've helped me out quite a lot. Just saying.
Well, I'm glad. It was fun. We had fun that day.
Yeah. Yes, we did.
We did have fun.
With regards to education or even life, how do you know when you know?
For me, like recently, I'm on this new path in my life that is very exciting, very new. In the summer, we were presented with an opportunity to become part of a global community with network marketing, with frequency therapy. And I remember, Troy, the first day I heard about it, my insides felt like they lit up.
Nice.
It felt like it lit up, like I just There were no reservations. There was no hesitation. I know exactly where I was. I was standing in the kitchen. I was listening to a video on Facebook of a friend of mine from the US, and she was talking about frequency therapy. And I said to Gary right then and there, I said, I have to be a consultant for this.
Nice.
I have to get this out into the world. I have to let people know what's available.
Nice.
And it was just, so I think if you find something and it just, like, I still remember the feeling. It was like, this is real. How could, like, I had no words.
It's like that aha moment, the light bulb just kind of bing.
Absolutely. And I learned that in May of last year. It was the first I heard of it. And I've since become a member, and we have a team, and it hasn't been launched in Canada yet, but it's coming. And I'm still as passionate about it now as I was back then.
Nice.
So I think, like, a lot of us, a lot of people are in jobs or have careers that it's a Monday to Friday job. It pays the rent. Puts food on my table. It pays for my car, but there's no joy in it. And I think after a time, that just becomes stress, all stress. But when you can impact someone's life and give them, when you feel that passion inside you, that, oh my gosh, I can't wait to work with someone to show them how this works and help them sleep, help them get rid of their pain,
Right.
help them balance their body. And it's still, again, it's health-based. That is my, niche in life is health and wellness. This is the only home we have. We may have the structural house that we live in, and we have a kitchen and whatever, but this body and this mind are our only homes on this planet. It's
Nice.
the one that we live in 24/7, and it's the one that we have to take care of and nurture and love and clean it up. Like, if you got some crap going on in your brain, clean it up, and there are ways to do it. Memories aren't permanent. They don't have to be. We are. I think sometimes as a culture, we feel that we have to suffer through life.
Right.
There's that mindset in a lot of cultures, but we really don't have to. It's a choice now, because there's
Right.
so much information out there. We don't have to suffer.
Right.
Yeah, I truly believe
Nice.
that.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
If you could write a letter to your younger self, what age would it be and what would you say?
I've done that, actually.
Nice.
I when I was, I think when I turned 50, I wrote a birthday card to myself, but it was my 105th birthday. And it was me writing it to me and elaborating on what my life was like. So it was almost like it was um, an intention for what my life would be. I don't know. Yes, I do know. You believe in intentions, and you believe in the power of belief and the mind, and collectively, the more we intend together, um, if you can believe it, you can achieve it.
Nice.
Right? So if I were to write a letter today, I think it would be to my 16-year-old self, letting her know that everything was going to be okay, that she didn't have to be so scared, that she really didn't let everybody down as much as she thought she did, that she, if we could, we never know what the future holds, and we only are what we know at the time until we learn something different. And but that's who I often, actually, in my mind, go back and nurture her.
Nice.
In my mind, and we can do that. The tool that I use a lot is Fast EFT, and it's a mind change trauma-based technique, and it's user friendly. I would recommend anybody and everybody learn how to tap on themselves. It's an incredible, incredible tool. I think our children should learn how to use it. I've worked with so many people that have been through, quite severe trauma, and they will come out the other side laughing.
Nice.
And even with loss, grief is such a big thing that as a culture, we tend to hold on to grief. Grief tends to equate how much we love someone. And if we give up that grief, then there's this big part of us that feels like we're letting go of the love that we had for them. But that is never the case, because our loved ones, once they're gone, they're happy, they're healed, they're well. That is my belief anyway. There's one big party up there, and they're just happy and singing. My mother's singing every day to me. And so I don't think that our loved ones that leave us want us to be sad and miserable. Yes, there is a time to grieve, but not all your life.
Right.
And so some of the work that I've done with people, and still choose to do with people, although I don't do it professionally anymore, but I'm thinking it might change. I'm not sure. I might open that back up a little bit.
Nice.
And so, yeah, I would recommend anybody look up Fast EFT, learn how to tap, and it will save your life. It saved mine. That's how I recovered when I became sick.
Awesome. I love your passion for helping people and serving others. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Couple random questions before we sign off here. If you were standing out, say, in your little town in Newfoundland, someplace that's very familiar to you, if you were standing out by yourself and there was a door in front of you, what would your door look like? Describe your door to me.
Wow, that's an interesting question, Troy.
Like I said, random.
If I was standing angry at my door in front of me, I think it would be wide open.
Okay.
I can see red in there because red's one of my favorite colors, but I think the door would be wide open, and it would be just sending love to everybody.
Does your door open in or out?
Oh, that's another good one. I think it opens in because I can see the red. And I would be just inviting everybody in. And the message I think I would give everybody is don't ever give up. It's
Nice.
never too late. I have seen so many miracles in my life that I do not believe in the quote, no cure. I don't.
Nice.
I believe that the body has an innate ability to heal itself. The mind does. But I think sometimes we, listen to other people's opinions or theories on things, and that's all we believe in. And
Right.
so I think everybody, I think it's just so important to love everybody.
Nice.
Even if you don't know them, like, I heard someone say a little while ago, they were asked, well, how can you love me when you don't know me? And her response was, well, there's so many people in this world that hate people and don't know them. I choose to love you.
Right. Right.
And I thought that was really profound. I thought it was like, you know what? That's really, really good. Just love everybody.
It's kind of like walking down the street and you don't necessarily know everybody you're walking past, but you smile at everyone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Just a smile, just to,
Nod your head.
back and they kind of stand up a little taller.
It's true. Yeah. And even compliment people. Yeah. Like if I see a woman with a nice jacket on, or a, real hot pair of shoes, or someone who with a dog, or I'll compliment them, or I'll say, geez, you know, you look good today, you know,
Yeah.
or, and I really believe that that can make someone's week.
Yeah.
And you don't know what anyone else is going through. Like, you just don't
Yeah.
know. And I know you from knowing you, you know, and Nancy, and I know you guys are that kind of people. You are, you know, and
Yeah.
I think that's why we've met and why we're connected so well.
Yeah.
I really do believe that.
Yeah. I think that everybody connects at a certain level with certain people because of certain things in their life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So what would be on the other side of your door if you stepped through it?
If I step through that door in my hometown, it would be acceptance and love and um, camaraderie. Um, it would be, what else? Peace. I remember, you really got me thinking here. I remember, I like this though. Uh, I remember growing up. Uh, it was it was 1,000 people, and we had, I think there were 7 different churches. And so we were the Catholic family, and there were just a handful of Catholic families in England at the time, and everyone else was Protestant. So there were a lot of things said about, you know, it was this belief in a fearful God, a fearing God, or being God fearing or whatever. And so I grew up with that perception for a long time, and really didn't know the difference, because you, like I said, you don't know until you learn something new. And I think going through that door now, the God that I have a relationship with and love is all about love, is loving. And I think for a long time I didn't even feel, this is deep, Troy. You're really good. I didn't even feel that I deserved God's love because I wasn't born Protestant, or I wasn't, but those were other people's beliefs. I had
Right.
to work my way out of them, and thankfully I have. And so I think that I would just, there's just that, when I walk through that door at home, it's just embracing everybody and just loving them all, and letting them know that it's okay not to be fearful. I don't think we're meant to go through life being afraid. You know, I think God is a loving God. We're all His children, and whatever you believe in is fine. I believe in God, and um, He loves us all equally.
Nice.
Everybody on the planet, regardless of color, regardless of, you know, their identity, what they choose to be. He loves us all, every one of
Nice.
us.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So I would just embrace them all, because God can't be down here to love us all, or His arms around us, but so we can do that for Him.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. If you were stuck on a desert island and you had a device and it never died and it only played one song over and over and over and over, what song would that be? You couldn't
Okay.
shut it off. You
Couldn't
had to
shut off.
listen to this thing constantly.
One of my favorite songs is Van Morrison's Into the Mystic. It
Nice.
just takes me away. I feel like I'm floating on a river. It's just, I love Van Morrison, and I play that song a lot. And there's a lot of different versions of it now, but his version is my favorite.
Nice.
It's just, yeah, yeah, it is.
That's awesome.
What would be your favorite song?
Hotel California would be my my go-to song.
Yeah,
I can listen
yeah,
to that over and over all the time, forever, and
yeah,
just there's a lot of Eagles songs that I could put on there, but that would be the one that would, if I had to pick one, that would be it.
Yeah, yeah. And it's
Yeah.
funny, I don't mind repeating songs because I'll find a song that I love or that inspires me, and I'll just play it and play it and play it until I know all the words. Some like if I find something new, and but there's a lot of people that don't like that repetition. They like,
Yeah.
so but
Variety.
once I find something
Yeah.
I really like, but yeah, Van Morrison is always, and Tom Jones. I'm a Tom Jones fan. I mean, I just love the guy. I got to see him live in concert a few years ago, and he was 78 then, I think.
Wow.
Man, he put on a show. Incredible. Yeah.
Continues on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like just
That's awesome.
amazing.
Steve.
Amazing. Yeah.
So, final question. If Phyllis McDonald-Mattie has gone through her whole life, you're a big learner. If you've learned everything you could ever learn in your life, you've accomplished everything you've ever wanted to, and you've just beyond your wildest dreams, you've just achieved everything, and you've just gained all this knowledge. When you pass on and you leave this earth, nobody here would know who Phyllis McDonald-Mattie is. If you could leave behind 3 lessons for life, what would they be?
To have what you've never had, you must do what you've never done.
Nice.
So just get out of your comfort zone, do it. If you don't, so that's just one thing. If you don't like what you're getting, then you must do something different.
Okay.
That's been a big quote for me. To have what you've never had, you must do what you've never done. The second thing would be don't ever give up on yourself. Be who you want to be. Whatever rocks your boat, whatever makes your world turn, whatever fires you up, that is what you're meant to be. No matter what anyone else tells you, that's what you're meant to do, and do it because life is short. But in the same breath, it's never too late. No matter how old you are, no matter what your circumstances, it's never too late to follow your dreams and your passion. So
Nice.
the third thing would be let me see, the third one. I'm guessing it's always the hardest one, isn't it? Just help people. I find helping people and teaching people things that I have learned. People think that when you teach, you're always the one giving. But when I've teach people, I learned so much, Troy. I remember when I was working as a nurse, I would always sign up to be a preceptor for nursing students and to teach them, how to work on the floor and give meds and procedures and stuff like that. You wouldn't believe how much stuff I learned in that process.
Nice.
New techniques, new ideas, new theories, new everything. So I think teach but be teachable is like, because that's been such a gift for me. Offer to teach what you know so that you can learn more as well.
Great.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Mhm.
That's amazing. I love your insight on life. Um, like I said, your passion for healthcare or for helping people and being of service to people, it's amazing, and you're a great person, I think. And I hope that people watching this can learn from it or take things that we've talked about and use them in their lives to help them be better people, and maybe realize that we all start at a place and maybe don't have the same path, but we can all be amazing in our own way. I
Yeah.
think that's a big thing, and I hope people watch it and get inspired and you
Yeah.
know enjoy what we've talked about today.
Yeah.
I,
I hope so too. Anything I've said hasn't come out of just reading a textbook. I've lived like I said, in some very dark places. I've experienced suffering. I know it wasn't easy roads for me. There were some pretty dark valleys, but you don't have to stay there unless you choose to.
Yeah.
You know, always reach out. That's something I had to learn, was that because growing up in Newfoundland, we were kind of, you know, my father, excuse me, my father was a businessman, so we kind of didn't need for things or want for things, but it was kind of this silent thing of, you don't need to ask for help.
Right.
So I had to learn that as an adult, when I found myself, you know, in certain situations, that you need to ask for help. It takes a community. We can't get through. We're all walking each other home. I love that
Yeah.
phrase.
There you
We're all
go.
walking each other
That's
home. We're all holding hands. And as we hold hands, we're just sharing each other's energy and knowledge. And so it's not all about reading a book. It's about what you experience in life. And if you are in a dark place, there's a wealth of information out there right now to help
yeah.
people get out of those places.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I found them. I'm so glad I'm um, in this meditation group with you, Troy, that we do together every week. It's a family for me. I carry you guys with me all week long, you know,
Yeah.
and people can be isolated, but right now, especially with COVID and whatever, but don't stay isolated. Reach out, even if it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Take uncomfortable action and do it.
I like your comment that we're all walking each other home.
We
Um,
are,
and like you said, there's a lot of information out there, but I think sometimes even just calling somebody and talking to them, because sometimes
yeah,
sometimes our struggles, all we need to do is talk about them.
yes,
And I think
absolutely.
that's what most people find difficult, is to talk about it.
Yeah, yeah,
A lot of us hold it in, and that causes us pain and anguish.
yeah.
And if we
Well, if
talk to
anybody
somebody, a
wants to
friend or
call,
whatever,
yeah, yeah, if
you know,
anybody wants to call me to chat, I'm here.
yeah, yeah,
Definitely.
they can find you on Facebook.
Yeah, they can find me on
Yeah.
Facebook. Yeah.
I appreciate your time, Phyllis. It's been a great interview. I love talking with you and chatting and getting your experiences. And I hope that people out there can enjoy this as much as I have.
Well, I've enjoyed every minute of it. You really made me think. I loved your questions, and it made me reflect on a lot of stuff that I probably hadn't thought about in a while. And no, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Troy. I really
That's
appreciate
awesome.
it.
Thank you very much for watching. This has been Lessons for Life with my guest, Phyllis McDonald-Mattie. I'm Troy Hudkins. Tune in again for another episode. Thank you.